Las Vegas. 1970. Midnight. A private training hall, lights dim, doors locked from the inside. No cameras, no audience, no media, just two men standing face to face. On one side, the fastest hands the world had ever seen. On the other, the greatest boxer to ever live. They didn't speak, they didn't smile, and in the shadows, only three witnesses stood silently, watching history unfold. What happened in that room was never recorded, never confirmed, never repeated. But those three men never forgot what they saw. Tell me, from where are you watching this story? And what time is it in your city right now? The door closed slowly, and with that sound, the outside world disappeared. Las Vegas, 1970. A private training facility hidden behind a luxury hotel, a place where celebrities trained quietly, away from cameras, away from noise. But tonight, even this place felt different. The air was heavier. Still, three men stood in the shadows, not speaking, not moving, as if they already knew they were witnessing something they were never supposed to see. No crowd, no announcer, no rules written on paper, only presence. At one end of the room, Muhammad Ali stood under a dim overhead light, tall, relaxed, effortless, his shoulders loose, his stance natural, his confidence almost visible, like a force surrounding him. This was a man who had already faced the world and defeated it. His speed had shocked champions. His words had broken opponents before the fight even began. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a storm people saw coming, but still couldn't stop. And yet tonight, he wasn't speaking. No jokes, no poetry, no rhythm, just silence. Because across the room, someone else stood there. Bruce Lee, not under the light, not trying to be seen, just there. Still, his body wasn't tense, but it wasn't relaxed either. It was something else, balanced, every muscle awake, but not forced. Every breath controlled, but not held. His eyes didn't wander. They didn't challenge. They simply observed. Not like a fighter looking for weakness, but like someone studying truth itself. One of the three witnesses felt a chill run through his spine, because in that moment, it didn't feel like two men in a room. It felt like two completely different worlds, standing face to face. Ali shifted slightly, rolling his shoulders, loosening his neck. A rhythm, something he had done before every fight. But this wasn't a fight, not officially. No one had announced it. No one had agreed to it. And yet, everything about this moment said otherwise. Ali took a step forward. Not aggressive, not cautious, just curious. The wooden floor made a soft sound beneath his feet. That sound echoed more than it should have, because the silence in the room was so deep, even a breath could be heard. Bruce Lee didn't move. Not yet. But something changed. Something subtle. The space between them felt different. Closer. Not in distance, but in awareness. Ali stopped. Just a few feet away now. Close enough to see every detail. The calm in Bruce Lee's eyes. The absence of fear. The complete lack of hesitation. That's when it happened. For the first time in a long time, Muhammad Ali didn't see an opponent. He saw a question, and he didn't have the answer yet. The three witnesses leaned forward slightly. No one dared to speak. No one dared to interrupt. Because something invisible was building. Not tension, not anger. Something deeper. Respect, mixed with uncertainty. Ali let out a slow breath, almost smiling now, but not fully. "Let's see," he said quietly, not loud enough to echo, just enough to exist. Bruce Lee didn't reply, not with words. His answer came differently. A single movement, His foot shifted forward just an inch, but that inch felt like a signal, a beginning. The room changed. The air tightened. Even the light above them seemed to dim slightly, as if the moment itself demanded focus. One of the witnesses clenched his hands without realizing, because he understood now. This wasn't going to be normal. This wasn't going to follow rules. This wasn't going to be predictable. Two legends. Two completely different philosophies about to collide. In total silence, Bruce Lee raised his hands slowly, not in a boxer's guard, not in a traditional stance, but in something fluid, something alive, something impossible to fully understand. Ali's eyes locked onto him, focused, now serious, because whatever this was, it wasn't familiar. And for the first time in that room, the greatest boxer alive was not fully in control of what was coming next. A heartbeat passed, then another, and in that space between seconds, everything paused. The world outside didn't exist anymore. Only this room, only this moment, only two men, standing on the edge of something no one would ever believe. And then Bruce Lee moved. Not fast, not slow, just sudden. So sudden that the eye couldn't fully register when the motion began, only that it had already happened. One of the three witnesses blinked, and in that blink, something changed. Muhammad Ali shifted instantly, his instincts sharper than any man alive. His body leaned back just enough, his guard rising in a smooth, practiced motion. Years of fighting had trained him for this. Speed, timing, distance. He knew them all. But this didn't feel like speed. It felt like interruption. Like Bruce Lee had stepped into the moment before it fully existed. Ali circled slightly to his left, light on his feet, his movement graceful, controlled, almost like a dance he had mastered long ago. But his eyes were different now, focused, calculating, watching every inch of Bruce Lee, because something wasn't adding up. Bruce Lee wasn't attacking, not yet. He was moving, shifting, adjusting, as if testing the space itself. His footwork was quiet, almost silent, on the wooden floor. No wasted motion, no rhythm that could be predicted. Every step looked simple, but felt impossible to read. Ali feinted first. A small shoulder twitch, a slight forward shift, the kind of movement that had fooled world champions. But Bruce Lee didn't react, not even slightly. No flinch, no adjustment, nothing. That's when the first crack appeared, not in the fight, but in expectation. Ali's brows tightened just a little, because, for the first time, his feint didn't exist. Bruce Lee stepped in. One step. Clean, direct. The distance collapsed. Ali responded instantly. His left hand snapped forward, a jab so sharp and precise it had dropped men twice his size. But again, nothing. Bruce Lee wasn't there. Or maybe he had never been there. The jab cut through empty space, and for a split second, the room felt heavier. One of the witnesses felt his throat go dry, because he realized something terrifying. Bruce Lee wasn't reacting to movement. He was reacting to intention. Before the body moved, before the strike formed, he was already gone. Ali pulled his hand back quickly, resetting his stance, circling again. Faster now, more serious. The playful curiosity from before had vanished. This was no longer a meeting. This was an unknown. Bruce Lee followed, not chasing, not pressing, just staying within a distance that felt uncomfortable, too close to relax, too far to strike cleanly. A space where control didn't belong to either man. Ali tested again, this time sharper. A quick double jab left, followed by a sudden step in. A classic combination. Perfect timing. Perfect execution. But Bruce Lee slipped the first before it fully extended, shifted his head just enough for the second, and, as Ali stepped in, Bruce Lee was already moving forward. Not back. Forward. That alone changed everything. Because fighters retreat. They defend. But Bruce Lee, he entered the danger. A flash. A blur. His hand moved short, direct, explosive. It didn't land fully. Not clean. But it stopped just inches from Ali's chest. Paused. Controlled. As if to say, I could have. Ali froze for a fraction of a second. Just a fraction. But enough. Enough for the witnesses to see it. Enough to feel it. That moment, that tiny pause, echoed louder than any punch. Ali stepped back slowly, resetting, breathing deeper now. Not tired, not shaken, but aware. More aware than he had ever been. Because now he understood something. This wasn't a fight he could dominate with rhythm. Bruce Lee had no rhythm. Or maybe he had too many. The kind that changed every second. Unpredictable, unstable, alive. Ali circled again, this time wider, his footwork sharper, his guard tighter. His mind was working fast now, adapting, learning, searching for something solid, but Bruce Lee gave him nothing. No pattern, no repetition, no opening that stayed open, only movement, only presence, only pressure. The three witnesses stood frozen. They weren't just watching skill, they were watching understanding unfold in real time. Two masters, trying to solve each other. Ali exhaled slowly, then suddenly stepped in again, this time faster than before. A real attack, a committed strike. His right hand came through like lightning, but Bruce Lee intercepted it, not with force, not with resistance, but with precision. His arm redirected the strike just enough, his body shifting at the exact angle needed. And in the same motion, he stepped inside Ali's reach. Inside the space where boxing loses its advantage. Too close, too sudden, too controlled. Ali reacted instantly, pulling back, resetting distance. But something had already changed. The room knew it. The witnesses felt it. And even Ali himself couldn't ignore it anymore. Because now, for the first time in that silent room, the balance had shifted. Not clearly, not completely, but enough to raise a question that had never been asked before. What happens when the greatest boxer in the world meets something he cannot predict? The air tightened again. The silence grew deeper, and both men stood there, closer than before, sharper than before, more focused than ever. Because now, this wasn't curiosity, this wasn't testing, this was real. And neither of them was willing to step back. The distance between Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali remained dangerously close. Too close for comfort, too close for hesitation, too close for mistakes. And in that narrow space, everything slowed down, not in reality, but in perception, because both men were no longer just reacting, they were thinking, reading, calculating layers beneath movement. Ali's chest rose slowly as he inhaled, his breathing controlled, measured, but deeper now. Not from exhaustion, from awareness, because something inside him had shifted. He had faced power before, he had faced speed before, he had faced unpredictability before, but never all three, combined like this. And never in silence. No crowd energy, no voices, no rhythm to ride, just him, and something he couldn't fully define. Across from him, Bruce Lee didn't blink, not once. His eyes were steady, calm, almost emotionless, but alive, like they were seeing not just Ali's body, but his thoughts. Ali made the first move again, but this time, There was no testing, no feint, no hesitation. He stepped in with full intent. A rapid combination left jab, right cross, pivot step, another jab. Each strike clean, precise, world-class. The kind of combination that overwhelmed champions. The kind that ended fights. The kind that people remembered for years. But Bruce Lee didn't meet it head-on. He dissolved around it. The first jab slipped past his cheek by a hair's width. The cross met empty air. The pivot was matched before it completed. And suddenly, Bruce Lee wasn't in front of Ali anymore. He was beside him. One of the witnesses nearly gasped, but caught himself, because what he had just seen didn't feel real. It felt impossible. Ali turned instantly, his reflexes unmatched, his awareness razor-sharp. But Bruce Lee was already gone again. Not retreating, not escaping, repositioning, always one step outside of certainty. Ali stopped moving for a second, just 1 second. And in that pause, his mind raced faster than his body ever could. He's not fighting me. That thought appeared suddenly. He's controlling the space. That realization hit deeper than any punch, because space is where fights are decided. Distance, timing, angles. And Bruce Lee wasn't just using them, he was rewriting them. Ali moved again, but now differently, more cautious, more grounded, less rhythm, more intention. He lowered his stance slightly, his eyes sharper than ever, because now this wasn't about dominance. This was about survival inside uncertainty. Bruce Lee stepped forward again, not rushing, not forcing, just entering, the kind of step that didn't look dangerous, but changed everything. Ali reacted fast. His right hand came forward again, faster than before. But this time, Bruce Lee didn't avoid it. He met it, not with force, but with timing. His hand intercepted Ali's arm mid-motion, redirecting it just enough. Not to stop it, but to change its path. And in that same instant, Bruce Lee's other hand moved. Short, direct, explosive. It stopped again, just inches from Ali's face. Not touching, not striking, just there. Close enough to feel, close enough to understand. The room froze. Completely. One of the 3 witnesses felt his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Because that moment, that exact moment, said everything. Ali saw it. He felt it. He understood it. That wasn't hesitation. That wasn't mercy. That was control. Perfect, undeniable control. Ali stepped back slowly this time, not reacting, not resetting in panic, but acknowledging. His breathing changed again, slightly heavier now, not from fatigue, but from something deeper. Respect. Real respect. The kind that doesn't come from reputation, but from experience. He looked at Bruce Lee differently now, not as a curiosity, not as a challenge, but as something rare, something dangerous, something real. Bruce Lee lowered his hand slightly, not fully, just enough to shift the moment. His expression didn't change. Still calm, still unreadable, still present. But something in the air felt different, because now both men understood each other. Not completely, but enough. Enough to know this wasn't going to end easily. Ali rolled his shoulders again, slower this time, not loosening, preparing, because now he wasn't going to test anymore. He was going to push beyond rhythm, push beyond instinct, push into something deeper. He stepped forward again, faster than before, his movement sharper, more aggressive, his presence stronger, because now he wasn't trying to understand Bruce Lee. He was trying to break him. The floor echoed under his step. The air tightened. The witnesses leaned in without realizing, and Bruce Lee didn't move. Not yet, because this time He was waiting, waiting for something specific, something precise, something inevitable. Ali closed the distance, his strike forming, his body committing, his speed reaching its peak. And in that exact moment, Bruce Lee moved. Not away, not around, through. A motion so fast, so direct, so unexpected, that even Ali's instincts couldn't fully respond in time. Their space collapsed completely. No distance, no room, no separation, just presence. Pure, undeniable presence. The witnesses felt it, not saw it, felt it, like the air itself had been cut. And then everything stopped. Not because the fight ended, but because something had been decided. Something invisible, something undeniable. Ali didn't strike again. Bruce Lee didn't move further. They stood there, close enough to hear each other breathe. And in that silence, no words were needed, because both men knew this was no longer about proving anything. This was about understanding something few ever could. And what they had just experienced was beyond fighting, beyond styles, beyond names. The three witnesses would remember this moment forever, not because of who won, but because of what they saw. Two legends reach a point where competition disappeared and something greater took its place. But the moment wasn't over, not yet, because even though neither man had stepped back, something inside both of them was still unfinished. And as the silence stretched again, longer, heavier, deeper, one question remained in that room: what happens next, when both men have already seen the truth? It deepened, not the kind of silence that comes from nothing happening, but the kind that forms when everything has already been understood. Muhammad Ali stood still, closer than ever before, his breath steady but heavier now, his chest rising slowly as if each inhale carried more weight than the last. He wasn't tired, he wasn't shaken, but something inside him had shifted, something rare, because for the first time in a very long time, he wasn't thinking about winning. Across from him, Bruce Lee remained exactly where he was. No movement, no adjustment, no expression. And yet, his presence felt stronger than ever. Not aggressive, not dominant, but undeniable, like something that didn't need to prove itself because it already existed beyond proof. The three witnesses didn't move, didn't breathe loudly, didn't even blink as often as they should, because what they were watching now was no longer a fight. It was something far more dangerous. Two minds, standing at the edge of understanding each other completely. Ali exhaled slowly, his eyes never leaving Bruce Lee. Then, almost without realizing it, he smiled. Not the playful smile the world knew, not the confident grin of a champion. Something quieter, something real, because in that moment, he understood something he had never experienced before. This man in front of him was not trying to beat him. He was trying to reveal something, and that realization hit harder than any punch ever could. Ali took a slow step back, not retreating, not surrendering, creating space. But this time, the space didn't belong to him anymore. Bruce Lee stepped forward, not fast, not sudden, but inevitable, like gravity, like something that cannot be resisted, only accepted. The distance closed again, but now it felt different. No tension, no uncertainty, just clarity. Ali moved first again, but this time his movement carried something new: depth. His jab came out not just as a strike, but as a question, a test of truth, a search for something deeper than technique. Bruce Lee responded instantly, not with defense, not with attack, but with flow. His body shifted, his hands guiding the energy away, not stopping it, not resisting it, just redirecting it. Ali stepped in with a combination faster, sharper, more committed than anything before. Left, right, pivot, step. Each movement layered, each strike meaningful, but Bruce Lee didn't meet them as strikes. He met them as energy. Every motion answered, every angle understood, every intention already known. The witnesses felt something strange. They weren't watching two fighters anymore. They were watching two languages, trying to speak to each other. And somehow, they were beginning to understand. Ali increased his pace. Faster now, sharper, more force behind every movement. Because now, this wasn't curiosity. This wasn't exploration. This was depth meeting depth. His right hand came through with full commitment, his body aligned perfectly, his timing exact, the kind of strike that defined his greatness. And Bruce Lee didn't avoid it. He stepped into it, not recklessly, not blindly, but with absolute precision. His body shifted just enough, his hand guiding the strike off its line. And in that same instant, his other hand moved again, faster than before, closer than before, more undeniable than before. It stopped, right at Ali's center line, not touching, not striking, but impossible to ignore. Ali didn't move, not immediately, because in that moment, he saw it clearly, not the hand, not the speed, but the truth behind it. Control, complete control, not over him, but over self. And that was something even he respected deeply. Ali lowered his hands slightly, not fully, just enough to acknowledge. Because now, this wasn't about proving superiority. This was about recognizing mastery. The room felt different, lighter, yet heavier at the same time, because something invisible had already happened. Something no one could measure, no one could record, but everyone in that room could feel. Bruce Lee stepped back slightly, just one step, creating space again. But this time, it wasn't to continue. It was to conclude something unspoken. Ali understood. He didn't step forward, didn't push again, didn't test, because now he didn't need to. The question had been asked, the answer had been shown, not clearly, not loudly, but undeniably. The three witnesses looked at each other briefly, then back at the two men, because they realized something terrifying. If they tried to explain this moment to anyone, no one would believe them. Not because it didn't happen, but because it couldn't be understood without being there. Ali took a slow breath, then nodded slightly, a gesture so small, yet filled with meaning. Respect. Real respect. Bruce Lee didn't nod back. He didn't need to, because his stillness already carried the answer. Seconds passed, but they felt longer than minutes. And in those seconds, something settled. Not victory, not defeat, something else. Balance. The kind of balance that exists when two forces meet, and neither breaks. The witnesses relaxed slightly, but not fully, because even though the intensity had shifted, something still remained, unfinished, unspoken. Ali turned slightly, taking a step to the side, as if preparing to leave. But then he stopped, just for a moment, because something inside him wasn't ready to walk away yet. Not without understanding one last thing. He turned back, his eyes sharper again, focused, curious. But this time, not about Bruce Lee, about himself. Bruce Lee watched him quietly, waiting, not for movement, not for attack, but for realization. And as the silence returned once more, deeper than before, heavier than before, more complete than before, one final layer remained between them. The deepest one, the one that couldn't be expressed through strikes, the one that couldn't be tested through speed, the one that only revealed itself when everything else had already been stripped away. And as both men stood there, On the edge of that final understanding, the room held its breath again, because whatever came next would not just define this moment, it would define how this moment would be remembered forever. But something inside it shifted again. Not visibly, not suddenly, but deeply, the kind of shift you don't see, you feel. Muhammad Ali stood there, his body still facing slightly away, as if he had already decided to leave. But his feet didn't follow, because something inside him refused to let the moment end. Not like this, not incomplete, not unanswered. He had faced champions across the world, men stronger, taller, heavier, men who came with power, aggression, and confidence. He had broken them, outboxed them, outthought them, outlasted them. But this was different, because, for the first time in his life, he couldn't define what he had just experienced. Across the room, Bruce Lee remained exactly where he stood, calm, still, untouched by the tension that had filled the room moments ago. But that calm was not emptiness, it was awareness. The kind of awareness that didn't come from fighting others, but from understanding self. The three witnesses shifted slightly, not because they wanted to move, but because their bodies needed to release the pressure that had been building inside them. They didn't speak. They couldn't, because words felt too small for what they were witnessing. Ali turned back fully now, facing Bruce Lee again, not as a challenger, not as a fighter, but as a man searching for clarity. His eyes held something new, not pride, not dominance, not even curiosity, something deeper, respect mixed with humility, a rare combination, one that very few had ever seen in him. He took a step forward, slow, measured, intentional. The wooden floor echoed again, soft, controlled, but louder than before. Because now, every movement carried meaning. Bruce Lee didn't react immediately. He simply watched, not judging, not analyzing, just present. Ali stopped just a few feet away again, closer than before, close enough to feel the stillness radiating from Bruce Lee. And in that moment, he spoke, quietly, again, just one word, but it carried everything. Not a demand, not a challenge, a request, a need. The witnesses felt it instantly. This wasn't about proving anything anymore. This was about understanding something he couldn't walk away from. Bruce Lee didn't respond with words. He didn't nod, didn't signal, but something changed. Subtle, almost invisible. His posture shifted, just slightly. His weight adjusted, just enough. And that was the answer. Ali exhaled slowly, then moved, faster than before. Not testing, not experimenting. This time, he committed, fully. His jab came out like a flash of light, sharp, direct, undeniable, followed instantly by a cross. His body turning perfectly, his timing exact. The kind of combination that had ended fights in seconds, the kind that defined greatness. But Bruce Lee met it differently this time. He didn't just flow around it. He entered it. The jab came. Bruce Lee's hand redirected it midline. The cross followed. His body shifted inside it, not away from it. Closing distance. Removing space. Removing advantage. Ali felt it immediately. The loss of distance. The loss of control. Because in that moment, the fight was no longer happening where he wanted it. Bruce Lee stepped in further. Closer. Closer than before. Closer than boxing allows. And suddenly, everything changed. Ali reacted instantly, trying to reset distance, stepping back. But Bruce Lee moved with him. Not chasing, not forcing, matching. Perfectly. Every step answered. Every movement mirrored. Not copy. Understanding. Ali increased his speed again. Faster now, more aggressive. His combinations came in waves, left, right, pivot, hook, each strike sharp, each movement purposeful. But Bruce Lee was no longer just responding, he was guiding. Every strike Ali threw was being led somewhere else, redirected, neutralized, understood before it even fully existed. One of the witnesses felt his hands trembling slightly, because what he was seeing was beyond technique, beyond training. It was something else, something closer to instinct. No, something beyond instinct. Ali stepped in again, this time with full force, his right hand coming through stronger than anything before. And this time, Bruce Lee didn't redirect it completely. He let it come close, closer than before. So close that for a moment, it looked like it might land. The room froze. The witnesses held their breath, but at the last possible instant, Bruce Lee shifted. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough. The strike passed, barely. And in that same moment, Bruce Lee moved, closer than ever before. Inside everything, inside distance, inside timing, inside expectation, his hand rose again. Short, direct, unstoppable. And this time, it didn't stop as far away. It stopped closer, much closer, right at the edge of contact, right where impact begins. Ali saw it, felt it, understood it. And in that moment, time slowed again, because what stood between them was not a strike. It was a decision. Bruce Lee held it there, not touching, not striking, but making something undeniable clear. He could, at an moment. Ali didn't move, didn't react, didn't counter, because for the first time, he didn't need to. He already knew. The room remained silent, but inside that silence, everything had been said. Bruce Lee slowly lowered his hand, not as a sign of ending, but as a sign of completion. Ali stepped back, not forced, not pushed, but choosing to, and in that step, something shifted permanently. Not defeat, not victory, but understanding. Real understanding, the kind that doesn't come from winning or losing, but from seeing something you didn't believe was possible. The three witnesses looked at each other again, and this time, they didn't just feel shock, they felt responsibility, because they knew what they had just seen was something no one else would ever truly understand. Ali took a deep breath, then let it out slowly. His shoulders relaxed, his stance softened, but his eyes remained sharp, because now he wasn't looking at Bruce Lee as an opponent. He was looking at him as something else entirely, something rare, something unique, something that didn't fit inside any category he knew. Bruce Lee stood quietly, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened, as if this was simply how things were meant to be. Seconds passed, then more. No one spoke, because nothing needed to be said. And yet, something still lingered. Not tension, not conflict, something deeper, something unresolved. Because even though the moment had reached its peak, one final truth still remained hidden. One final layer still needed to surface. And as both men stood there, in complete awareness of each other, the question that filled the room wasn't about who won. It wasn't about who was faster. It wasn't about who was stronger. It was something else. Something far more powerful. Something the world would never fully understand. What happens when two legends meet, and instead of fighting for victory, they discover something greater than it? The silence held that question, protected it, sealed it, because the answer was not meant for everyone, only for those who were there, only for those three witnesses, and now, only for you. It felt complete, not because nothing was happening, but because everything that needed to happen already had. Muhammad Ali stood still, his chest rising slowly, his breath deeper than before, not from fatigue, not from pressure, but from realization. A realization that didn't arrive all at once. It unfolded, layer by layer, moment by moment, until it became impossible to ignore. Across from him, Bruce Lee stood exactly the same. No change in posture, no visible shift in expression, but something about him now felt even more distant. Not physically, but conceptually, like he had stepped beyond the moment, while still standing inside it. The three witnesses felt it too, that strange feeling, like they were no longer watching a confrontation, but the end of one. Ali slowly lifted his hands again, not in a guard, not in preparation, but almost as if he was feeling the air itself, testing something invisible, trying to understand what couldn't be seen. Then he moved again, but this time it wasn't the same. His step forward was slower, more deliberate, less explosive, because now he wasn't trying to win. He was trying to find something he had just touched, but not fully grasped. Bruce Lee didn't react immediately. He allowed the moment to exist, allowed Ali to enter again, not as a fighter, but as a seeker. Ali's first movement came softly, a jab that wasn't meant to land. A question. Bruce Lee answered it without resistance. His hand guided it away, not with force, but with understanding. Ali followed with another movement, slightly faster, slightly sharper, still controlled, still searching. Bruce Lee moved with it again, matching, adapting, flowing, not ahead, not behind, exactly where he needed to be. The witnesses realized something in that instant. This wasn't two people reacting anymore. This was synchronization, like two forces aligning, not clashing. Ali increased his speed again, but something was different now. Even in his fastest movement, there was restraint, because deep inside, he already knew. Bruce Lee wasn't trying to defeat him. He was trying to show him something, and that made every movement feel heavier, more meaningful. Ali stepped in again, this time faster, sharper, closer to his full power, his right hand coming forward with precision. But Bruce Lee didn't move away. He didn't step aside. He stepped closer, inside the strike, inside the moment, inside the decision itself. And for the first time, their movements collided, not violently, not explosively, but directly. Contact, not a hit, not a strike, but a meeting. Bruce Lee's hand intercepted Ali's movement, not stopping it, but absorbing it, redirecting it, understanding it completely. Ali felt it instantly. That strange sensation, like his movement had been accepted, not resisted, like it had been allowed to exist, and then gently dissolved. Bruce Lee's other hand rose again, short, direct, unstoppable. And this time, it didn't stop at a distance. It came closer than ever before, right at the line, the exact line where control becomes impact. And there, it paused, closer than any moment before, closer than comfort, closer than expectation. Ali didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't counter, because in that moment, everything became clear, not through thought, not through analysis, but through experience. He understood, not just Bruce Lee's movement, not just his speed, but his philosophy, the way he approached conflict, the way he approached existence itself. No resistance, no wasted energy, no ego, just flow, just truth. Ali slowly lowered his hands, not because he had to, but because he chose to. And in that choice, something rare happened. Acceptance, not of defeat, but of understanding. Bruce Lee lowered his hand as well, not as a gesture, not as a signal, but as a natural continuation. Like the moment had reached its natural end, the three witnesses stood frozen, because they realized this was it. This was the moment they would remember for the rest of their lives. Not a knockout, not a winner, not a loss, but a realization. Ali took a step back, slowly, then another, each step lighter than the last, as if something had been lifted from him, not physically, but internally. He exhaled deeply, then looked at Bruce Lee one more time, and this time his eyes didn't carry challenge. They carried clarity, a quiet understanding that words couldn't express. Bruce Lee stood still, watching, not expecting anything, not needing anything, just present. Ali gave a small nod, almost invisible, but full of meaning, respect, acknowledgement, understanding. Bruce Lee didn't nod back. He didn't need to, because his stillness already held the same meaning. The room softened, the tension dissolved, but the weight of what had happened remained, heavy, unforgettable. One of the witnesses finally shifted his stance slightly. Another let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The third simply stared, unable to fully process what he had just seen. Because how do you explain something like this? How do you describe a moment where no one wins, yet everything changes? Ali turned away slowly. This time, his feet followed. He walked toward the door, each step quiet, measured, different from the way he had entered, because he wasn't the same man anymore. Not completely, not exactly. He reached the door, paused for a brief second, then opened it. Light from the outside corridor spilled into the room, breaking the isolation, breaking the moment, but not erasing it. Ali stepped out, and just like that, the room changed. Bruce Lee remained inside, standing exactly where he had been, as if nothing unusual had occurred, as if this was simply another moment. The three witnesses looked at him, waiting, expecting something, a word, a gesture, a sign. But Bruce Lee gave them nothing. He simply turned slightly and walked away, calm, silent, unchanged. The door closed again, and the room returned to stillness. But it wasn't the same stillness as before. This one carried memory, meaning, weight. The three witnesses stood there for a long time. No one spoke. No one tried to explain, because they all understood the same thing. If they tried to describe what happened, no one would believe them. Years would pass. Stories would spread. Rumors would grow. People would debate, argue, imagine. But the truth, the real truth, would remain locked inside that room, carried only by three men who saw something the world was never meant to see. Not a fight, not a victory, not a loss, but something far more rare, a moment where two legends didn't try to defeat each other, but understood each other. And that was something no record could capture, no story could fully explain, no audience could truly feel, unless they had been there. And as time moved on, and the world kept asking, who would win? The three witnesses never answered, because the real answer was never about winning. It was about something deeper, something hidden, something silent, something that only existed in that room, on that night, between two men who didn't need to prove anything. Softly, but that soft sound echoed louder than anything that had happened inside that room. Because when Muhammad Ali stepped out, he didn't just leave the room. He left something behind, and at the same time, he carried something with him. Something invisible, something no one outside would ever understand. The hallway was quiet. Dim lights stretched into the distance, reflecting off polished floors, creating long shadows that followed his every step. Ali walked slowly, not because he was tired, not because he was thinking, but because something inside him had changed its rhythm. Every step felt different, lighter, but heavier at the same time, because what he had just experienced was not something you walk away from quickly. It stays, it settles, it rewrites something inside you. He reached the end of the hallway, then stopped, just for a moment. His hand rested lightly against the wall, not out of weakness, but out of reflection. His eyes lowered slightly, and for the first time that night, there was no movement in them. No calculation, no strategy, no performance, just stillness, real stillness, the kind that only comes after understanding something deeply. Inside the room, Bruce Lee stood alone, the same place, the same posture, the same calm. But now, the room felt completely different. Not intense, not heavy, but empty. Not empty like nothing happened, empty like something had been completed. The three witnesses remained, still silent, still frozen between disbelief and realization. One of them finally shifted his weight, as if trying to bring himself back into reality. Another looked toward the door, as if expecting it to open again, but it didn't, because moments like that don't repeat. They exist once, and then they become memory. Bruce Lee took a slow breath, barely noticeable, then turned, not dramatically, not with purpose, just naturally, and began walking toward the opposite side of the room. His steps were quiet, measured, unchanged, as if what had just happened had no effect on him at all. But that was exactly what made it unforgettable. Because the witnesses realized something in that moment. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He never was. Not from the beginning, not in the middle, not even at the end. This wasn't a fight to him. It was expression, pure expression. Ali stood in the hallway, still unmoving. Then, slowly, he lifted his head. His eyes looked forward again, but they weren't the same. There was something deeper in them now, something quieter, something more grounded. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled, and in that breath, something settled permanently. Not doubt, not confusion, clarity. He understood now, not everything, but enough. Enough to know that what happened in that room could never be explained through words. Because it wasn't about technique, it wasn't about style, it wasn't even about who could win. It was about something far more rare. A meeting of truths, two different paths, arriving at the same point, from completely different directions. Ali smiled slightly. Not the smile the world knew, not the confident, playful, untouchable grin. A different smile, a quiet one, the kind that doesn't need to be seen, because it's not for anyone else. He pushed himself gently away from the wall and continued walking, this time without stopping, without looking back, because some moments you don't revisit. You carry them forward. Inside, back in the room, the three witnesses finally moved. Not all at once, not suddenly, but slowly, like people waking up from something they couldn't fully understand. One of them spoke first, barely above a whisper. "What was that?" No one answered, because no one had the words. Another witness shook his head slightly, still trying to process what he had seen. That wasn't a fight. The third remained silent, but his eyes said everything, because deep down, they all knew the truth. That moment was never meant to be labeled, not as a fight, not as a spar, not as a test. It was something else entirely, something that existed outside categories, outside definitions, outside understanding. Bruce Lee reached the far side of the room, then stopped. Not because he had to, but because the moment had fully ended. He turned his head slightly, just enough to glance back, not at the witnesses, not at the space, but at nothing in particular, as if acknowledging something only he could see. Then he walked out, without a word, without a sound, without leaving anything behind, except a question. The room fell silent again, but this silence was different from the beginning. This one held meaning. This one held memory. This one held something that would never fade. Years passed. Stories began to spread. Rumors, whispers, people talking about a possible meeting between Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali. Some said it never happened. Some said it was impossible. Some tried to imagine what it would look like. Some argued endlessly about who would win. But the truth, the real truth, it never changed, because the only people who knew never spoke. Not publicly, not clearly, not completely. They carried that moment for the rest of their lives, not as a story, but as an experience, something too real to explain, too deep to simplify, too powerful to reduce into words. And every time someone asked them, who would win, they didn't answer, because the answer wasn't what people wanted. It wasn't simple. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't satisfying. It was something else, something quieter, something deeper, something that only exists when ego disappears. Because what happened that night was not about victory. It was about understanding. And understanding doesn't create winners. It creates awareness. And awareness changes everything. The world kept asking, kept debating, kept choosing sides, but the truth remained untouched, unchanged, unspoken, locked in that room, on that night, with 3 witnesses who saw something the world could never fully see. And as time moved on, one final realization remained. The greatest moments in history are not always the ones recorded, not the ones broadcast, not the ones celebrated, but the ones that happen in silence, in private, between 2 people who don't need to prove anything, because they already know. And maybe that's why this story still lives, not because of what happened, but because of what it means. And now, you've heard it, not from cameras, not from records, but from the silence that carried it all these years. So tell me, after everything you've just seen, after everything you've just felt, what do you think really happened in that room? And from where are you watching this story? And what time is it in your city right now? Some stories end with a winner. Some stories end with a loser. But this one never needed either. Because what happened between Bruce Lee and Muhammad Ali was never about proving who was better. It was about something far more rare. 2 legends meeting at a level where ego disappears, where speed, power, and skill no longer compete, but begin to understand each other. The world will always ask the same question: who would win? But maybe that question was never meant to be answered, because the truth is, some battles are not meant to be won. They are meant to be felt. And that night, in a silent room with only 3 witnesses, something happened that no camera could capture, no crowd could understand, and no story could fully explain. Not a fight, not a victory, not a defeat, but a moment where 2 masters saw something in each other that the world is still trying to understand. And maybe that's why this story still lives, because it leaves you with something deeper than an answer. It leaves you with a question. So now, I ask you, after everything you've just heard, who do you think would win? And, more importantly, what do you think really happened in that room? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because the next story might be even more unbelievable.